Hey everyone, welcome back to the workshop. Artisan Pirate here, and in today's fun scroll saw project video, we are going to be cutting out and making a beautiful star themed bowl completely from start to finish over at the scroll saw. Once again, showing off the scroll saw's versatility for creative and unique designs. The pattern we're going to be using comes from the newest issue of Scroll Saw Woodworking and Crafts magazine by Fox Chapel Publishing, summer 2025, issue 99, with the beautiful Intarsia seahorse there on the cover. The article begins on page 27, and it says, Star Bowl, create an easy celestial vessel to hold your keepsakes, by Mr. Dave Van S, and I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly. But here you see the beautiful visual representation that they have featured in the magazine itself. So a really cool way to show off what a scroll saw is capable of, especially with the star theme in there. If you know someone that likes astrology or the stars and celestial stuff like that, this would be a great gift to make for them. Or with summer right around the corner, this could also be interpreted as a starfish bowl. So again, options and versatility for each and every scroll saw project and pattern you come across. The article continues over on the following page with how to cut everything out and a selection of the materials you may need, and then the full size pattern follows after that. We've already got the pattern photocopied to its full size, and it's ready to be attached to the material because we're going to have to be using, due to the nature of the pattern and how you're going to have to cut it out, we're going to have to use spray adhesive to attach the pattern to our material. And it says materials here in the parts list, use woods such as aspen or pine. Now, I don't think I've ever cut out aspen over on the scroll saw, but you guys know I love to use pine, and that is the material I have selected here. Pine sands, shapes, cuts, and contours exceptionally well over on the scroll saw and with the sanders and everything, and then it takes paint, stains, and clear coats exceptionally well, and it's just a great material to teach with visually over here on the platform. And I really love the piece that I have selected here. It was just a basic pine shelving board, but it still has this rainy grain texture like it's raining within the wood. I thought that would look real cool once clear coat is applied. On the other side, I have masked everything off with basic masking tape. Some people call it teacher's tape, but I was running out of blue painter's tape because that is what I was supposed to use to put over here, but I didn't think I had enough left, so I'm using masking tape here, and we'll see how it works throughout the course of the video, because I don't think I've ever used that to mask stuff off or spray adhesive either. If I did, I can't remember it. Here is the full-size pattern, and it has a way to orient the grain to the best of your abilities with the material you use. So you see the grain direction is going that way. So on the other side, we will attach the pattern just like that with the spray adhesive. We will spray the back side of the pattern. We'll let it get tacky for a few seconds and then attach it and smooth it out, and we'll be ready to go. But I want to talk about the process here. Everything you need to know is listed in the magazine itself in that article, especially the angle you need to tilt your scroll saw at for the bevel cutting. If you guys remember last year, we cut out this beautiful bowl, which is a Steve Good design, completely over on the scroll saw with bevel cutting, but his process was a little bit differently. If you guys have not seen this video, I encourage you guys to go back and see it before continuing with this video, because this video is going to show a different method for making the bowl over at the scroll saw. With Steve's pattern, we drilled pilot holes at an angle due to a story stick we cut out over at the scroll saw at the proper angle, and then all of the entry holes was at an angle. The project we're going to be doing today does not have any kind of interior cuts whatsoever, but what's unique about it is you are going to cut completely through over on the star rings here, and when you get to where you started, you're going to essentially break the ring and carefully remove it, and once you get all of the rings cut out, we're going to carefully glue them back together to the best of our abilities, just showing a different and unique way to make a bowl over at the scroll saw. And I'm really eager to try this process, and since all that's left to do is get our pattern sprayed with some spray adhesive and get it attached to our material, let's move the camera and do that now. And since I need the magazine to know what angle to dial my scroll saw in at, we'll take it along as well. So let's get started. And over here on the workbench, we're going to take the spray adhesive and spray the back side of the pattern and let it get tacky, and we will attach it to our material. And for added reassurance, I'll add basic clear packing tape over all of that. Of course, the clear packing tape can help lubricate the scroll saw blade. But now over at the scroll saw, I'll take the magazine and consult it as to what angle that I need to bevel my scroll saw at. And the Rikon scroll saw, the whole arm assembly bevels as opposed to the table. And because I am left-handed, I did want to bevel it towards the left, but after glancing at the magazine, it did say bevel the arm to the right at 19 degrees, so I quickly readjusted and locked it in place. And then I got my work stool and we were ready to begin scrolling. For all of the scrolling on this project, I'll be using a number 5 Ultra reverse tooth blade, and it will cut through this 3/4 inch pine material exceptionally well with minimal chip out. And as you can see here, because the whole arm assembly of the Rikon scroll saw bevels, the actual table of the scroll saw is still perfectly flat. But I am just going along here doing our very first cut. Due to the nature of this project, there is no internal cuts whatsoever. What we will do is essentially break one of the rings by cutting into it and then continuing along the cut line. As always, I'm taking my time and I'm letting the blade do the work, and I'm being as loyal as I can be to the cut line. If you guys would like to try this pattern, it's available in the newest issue of Scroll Saw Woodworking and Crafts magazine by Fox Chapel Publishing, the Summer 2025 edition. But now here at a closer view, you can see how I cut into that ring, and then I continued along the star shape here. Again, with summertime fast approaching, I just felt that a star-shaped bowl that could be interpreted for summertime and starfish theming would be an appropriate project to bring to life out of that newest issue of Scroll Saw magazine. If you guys like what you're seeing, I would highly encourage you to subscribe to my channel and also follow me across all my social media feeds under the Artisan Pirate name. I'd really appreciate the support. But we are now cutting out the final ring here, and when we come back around, all of the scroll saw work will be complete. And I want to reiterate on how important it is to stay loyal to that cut line for when we get to the assembly process later on in the video. You want to make sure that everything lines up as smooth as possible. But now that all of the scroll saw work is done, over here on the workbench we can remove the patterns from all of the pieces here, and I'm being careful not to break any of the star-shaped rings. And off camera I'll peel off all of the remaining masking tape with an X-Acto knife. But we now have our first visual of the finished project. And the first part of the assembly is to glue all of the rings back together. And to do that, I will use medium grade CA glue and activator here. And the CA glue basically bonds instantly once the activator is applied. So I'm working quickly here and making sure that the pieces are lined up to the best of my abilities before spraying the activator. But after the rings have dried, we can do the final glue up here, and I'll be again using more medium grade CA glue and activator. And by all means, you can glue the star-shaped bowl up with wood glue if you want to go that route. It's just with the time of getting a weekly scroll saw project video out, I'm using the CA glue here for video purposes. But after I have set the bowl aside and let it dry and cure for around 5 minutes, it'll be time for various forms of sanding. And I am beginning here with the spindle sander, and I'm being very careful with how I sand the bowl here, because once you get the walls cut out, they are around 1/4 inch in thickness, and you could easily sand through them with some aggressive sanders. So again, being very careful here. And now we are going to go to the Marathon rotary tool by Bearwood Supply. And I've got a little miniature sanding drum attachment on it, and I'm sanding the inside walls here and doing some touch-up sanding as well. Thank you, Sterling Davis, for giving me the Marathon rotary tool. And for a final sanding, I'm using this sanding mop here from Klingspor Woodworking Shop. Again, being very careful with how I sand everything. And I'll sand both the inside and the outside of the bowl. But then I'm going to add a splash of color with a very light shade of Minwax wood stain that does not mask off the natural grains and textures of the pine material we used. And I'll wipe off all of the excess, and I'll set the bowl aside to dry in front of a fan. and after it was dry to the touch, I set it by the door and gave it a finish with several coats of Rust-Oleum clear gloss. And when that dried, the project was complete. And here we have the completed star theme bowl, cut out completely over on the scroll saw from start to finish. Once again, showing off a scroll saw's creative versatility for unique and amazing designs such as this. I want to once again thank Mr. Dave Van S for the beautiful and creative design featured in the newest issue of Scroll Saw Woodworking and Crafts magazine by Fox Travel Publishing. I'll once again hold that magazine up and show you guys as we close the video here. For total time over at the scroll saw, it was only about 20 to 25 minutes to scroll everything out completely from start to finish. The design is very simplistic in nature. It's just due to the nature of the project you are making. You need to, of course, take your time and let the blade do the work and be as loyal as you can be to the cut line, because with the bevel cutting and everything, you want to make sure once everything is cut out at the scroll saw and you go to the assembly and gluing up everything, you want to make sure everything lines up symmetrically, if that makes any sense. But a really cool and unique design here, and it was my first attempt at making a shaped bowl over at the scroll saw, and it was my very first attempt here in today's video using the method that was featured in the magazine, because remember last year we made this bowl using bevel cutting, and it was my first time making a bowl ever on a scroll saw, but the process that Steve Good offered was a little bit different than the process I brought to life visually over on today's video. And again, I encourage you guys to go back and see this video here that I made last year so you can kind of compare and contrast and see which method of making bowls at the scroll saw you guys prefer. With Steve's design, you had to drill pilot holes at an angle using a story stick you make over at the scroll saw, and then you had to thread the blade through the pilot hole at an angle, so keep that in mind for this project. In this one, we done all basic cuts. There was no internal cuts whatsoever. And I'm not saying that Steve's design is better than this design or this design is better than Steve's design. It's just what method do you prefer to use out in your garage or workshop. But with this design, we essentially broke each of the rings. We didn't break the backer board because there was no need to do that. But all of the layers we cut through and broke them, and then after we got the pattern and the tape peeled away, and that took a little bit of time, you know, peeling all that tape off that I attached the pattern to. But then we glued the rings back together to the best of our abilities and made sure everything was symmetrical, and then we glued all of the layers together. And I used medium grade CA glue and activator, and please keep in mind, if you have the time and you have nice clamps and everything out in your workshop, I do have the clamps, I do have the wood glue that I could have used. It's just with the manner of making videos over here on the platform and the time frame of getting a video out weekly, I just used the medium grade CA glue and activator. And again, I hope that makes sense. But really happy with how it came out. I stained everything with a light shade of Minwax wood stain to still allow the natural grains, shades, and textures of the material to shine through without masking off the grain. And again, I really love the grain of this basic off-the-shelf 3/4 inch pine shelving board that we cut off and used. It has like a rainy texture in the grain, like it is raining through the material, and I really like that. So I really took my time during the glue up to make sure that I lined everything back up in a uniform direction to where hopefully it would all line up seamlessly, and it did in a visual and artistic way, and I'm really happy with that. But keep in mind, if you were going to paint this, you would not have to orient it to where the grain lined up again after you went to the assembly process and everything. But I finished everything with several coats of Rust-Oleum clear gloss, and it really made the grain textures pop of the pine material and give it a nice glossy appearance that you can see in the lights of the workshop. The time you're going to have in this project is sanding, shaping, and contouring everything. I used the spindle sander, I used hand sandals, the Marathon rotary tool by Bearwood Supply, a sanding mop from Klingspor Woodworking Shop, and then some sanding sponges and some other sanders off camera to sand, shape, and contour everything to get it looking as uniform as possible. Is it perfect? Absolutely not, because it's my very first time making a shape bowl over at the scroll saw. But I could quickly see that if I made more of these and really tried out the process, they would probably become better with each respective one that I would make, just like if I made just basic round bowls like I have in the past. But really, really cool. Really happy with the design. Again, with it being a star, it could be used in a couple different ways. If you know a friend or loved one that likes celestial stuff, that likes astrology and looking at the stars through telescopes, you could of course give this to them as a gift, and it would make a nice little display piece. Maybe spray paint it black or a dark purple to represent the night sky and put some star constellations on it to go with the design. If you know someone that has a sweet tooth and likes candy, you could fill it with candy and give it as a gift, and it could sit on a shelf desk or countertop or go into an office cubicle or things like that. And also, with summer, again, right around the corner, you could, of course, spray paint it a nice tropical blue or coral color and fill it with sand and seashells to display it in a beachside cottage. So a lot of creative uses for this star-shaped bowl design. But I hope the video has inspired you guys to go out in your garage or workshops to try a bowl over at your scroll saw. And again, go back and watch the original bowl video I made that was a Steve Good design, and compare and contrast which method you guys might like to use out in your garage or workshops, and let me know down in the comments below. But you can see here that everything is not perfectly sanded on the inside. I didn't really get down in there as good as I probably should have. I was more focused on sanding the outside with the spindle sander, getting everything as smooth as they could be once I wanted to get done with it, and I dusted off all of the excess sawdust once I got done sanding everything before we went to staining and clear coating. But I hope the results speak for themselves, and again inspires you guys to try a design like this for yourselves. Once again, the magazine that the pattern came out of is the latest issue of Scroll Saw Woodworking and Crafts magazine by Fox Travel Publishing, Summer 2025, issue 99, with the tropical seahorse there on the cover. And the article we used began on page 27, and it does have a step-by-step guide in the following article and a list of materials you may need out in your garage or workshop to bring the project to life. And then the following page, on page 29, has the full-size pattern that we photocopied and used in today's video. But one more look at it before we close the video. Here is that scrap wood that will be discarded. This was the very first piece, so you can see how a flat two-dimensional piece of material turned into a beautiful and creative piece of scroll saw woodworking art with a little bit of time, patience, and effort. But really, really cool. Had a lot of fun in today's video, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching the video and hopefully picked up a tip, trick, or tidbit along the way. That's going to be about all for this one. If you're new to the channel, hopefully you'll click that subscribe button and follow me across all my social media feeds under the Artisan Pirate name. As always, links to contact me as well as all my social media feeds will always be linked down in the description box below these videos. That's about all for this one, and remember guys, if I can make it or do it, so can you guys. I'm the Artisan Pirate. Take care, and I'll see you guys real soon.